Okay, good evening, everybody. My name is Tanya Sheldon. I am coming to you from Meridian, Idaho. I've lived here since 2012. I'm originally from South Dakota. I'm a Midwest girl, and I cannot tell you how excited I am for you to get this information tonight. So, as we go along, please, again, as you hop on, tell us where you are watching from. We'd love to know that. And also, as we go along, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. And by the end, if Gloria has not already addressed it, we will do our very best to address your questions and get answers for you. We are with a company called LifeVantage. It is an activation company. And what we want to do is we want to help your body we give you products to take that allow your body to make what it needs to function optimally. And there is a buzz in the world today called GLP-1, and there's many different forms of it. Some come as injectables. Those are the most popular that we've heard about. And what we want to do, LifeVantage has formulated a GLP-1 activator. And we're going to teach you tonight, Gloria is going to teach you what GLP-1 is and how to get it turned on in your own body so that it can work for you instead of you looking for a source somewhere else to get it. And you'll find that when you do that, you're going to get the best results by taking something and allowing your body to make what it needs. So Gloria is going to educate you on what GLP-1 is, how it functions, and how you can get your body to make it. And we want you to be educated in the best way possible so that you can make the best decisions for your health. And GLP-1 is not just about weight loss. You're going to hear about so many other health benefits that come with that. So Gloria Brinker, who is she? She started her career in occupational therapy, working in subacute, long-term, and acute therapy. And after 9 years, was offered the position of Director of Rehab and Wellness at a covenant of retired Benediction sisters. She learned firsthand the positive effects that natural health and diet and emotional and spiritual health had in the rehabilitation for people and their outcomes. After 5 years, Gloria felt compelled to continue her studies and is presently certified in natural health, massage, reflexology, healing touch, and is an NES and EVOX practitioner. Gloria focuses on functional health, including educating others on how the body functions and how to support the body in doing its job, helping people to survive and thrive. So with that, Gloria, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much for that introduction. I am trying to, of course, get this. Oh, Tanya, we had this all ready before, didn't we?
You got it. You just need to press play.
I know.
Go up to File or Slideshow. Yeah, go to Slideshow.
I know I can't click on there because we really did have all of this all set up, didn't we, Tanya?
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna try this. Okay, we're gonna try this one more time. I just know it. Okay, I'm gonna go slideshow from the beginning. Ooh, can you see that or no?
Nope.
No. Okay, here we go. I know this is what's gonna happen here. Here we go. Now we got it. Now we're gonna work it here.
Share your screen though again, Gloria.
What's that?
You got to share your screen again. There you go.
Okay. Now we got it. Yes?
Got it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so thank you all for coming this evening. And I'm so excited. I've been looking at GLP-1 for quite a long time. And when LifeVantage said that they were going to be launching a GLP-1 activator, I needed to dive even deeper into it and to really find out about what this is all about. So tonight we're going to cover about what it is and what does it do in your body and why you seriously want GLP-1 working for you. Okay. So a couple of things is that I did do some research. And so the main I'm going to be talking about this evening come from these two different sources. And so one is from Science Direct, and Science Direct it's published on like PubMed.gov. And so this is fairly new research. And so it's from May of 2024. Okay. And what the article was, it said unlocking longevity with GLP-1, a key to turning back the clock. So as you can see, this was actually some research that was out of India. But again, it's very, very new research. And this is the one, it wasn't quite published yet. It said it was going to be published in August. And so I contacted actually the whoever the powers that be, and I got the published thing earlier. So I paid for it, but I was so eager to learn about it and understand it. The other real source that I'm going to be talking about tonight is this Dr. Benjamin Bickman. And so he is teaches at a college, a professor at a college, and he teaches cell biology and physiology. And what he had said is much of the recent work is really focused on this hormone called insulin and what it actually does in the body and what are the disease conditions related to the hormone insulin. And he said that insulin, while it's very necessary for healthy living, it can also elicit significant and harmful changes in the tissue's metabolic function when it's chronically elevated. And that's what we really have to look at when it's chronically elevated, okay? So several projects have really stemmed from this work, and that includes focusing on the different effects of micronutrients, which are your carbohydrates, your proteins, your fats, all those kinds of things, and what they actually do in the body and how they work in the body. And also how all of those kinds of things affect insulin homeostasis. Whenever you see homeostasis, it simply means balance. We just want balance in our body, okay? Homeostasis is just balance, okay? And the effects of insulin on brown adipose tissue, which is more of that dangerous kinds of fat, if that's what we're going to call. Most times that's where we store around the internal visceral organs of the body. And also insulin-induced brain alterations, okay? So what we know is how sugar and insulin affects the brain, okay? So write that paragraph right there that I kind of highlighted. What I would like to tell you is that when it's activated and healthy and alive, this is exactly what GLP-1 helps with. All of those kinds of things. How does all of the foods that we eat affect the insulin homeostasis, the brown adipose tissue, and then insulin-induced brain alteration? So it's a really kind of a neat thing, okay? GLP-1 is a natural occurring hormone in the body. I have had some people, as I'm talking about it, get kind of a little bit freaked out because naturally occurring GLP-1 is extremely different than GLP-1 receptor agonists, which in parentheses it says they're GLP-1-1RA, or the GLP-1 analogs. It's extremely different because those are actually synthetic medications. They usually come in the form of an injectable, and it forces the body to release more GLP-1 maybe than the body needs. Now remember, life is all about homeostasis. Life is all about balance. But what is it's really done in all the research and the articles that you read is it describes to mimic GLP-1 in the body. So that's that injectable. And any time that the body is forced to have an action, it becomes imbalanced, and that usually ends up with horrible side effects, okay? So with that being said, we can know and understand that, but LifeVantage is very wise when they say, do not compare the two because they are completely different within the body. One is a natural hormone within the body, and what is actually an injectable that mimics the GLP-1 in the body. Does that make sense? So we don't want to be saying that they're the same thing. And that's why they say you can't even compare the two. You can know what GLP-1 does in the body, but please don't try to compare or think that it's the same thing because it's very different within the body and how the body handles it, okay? Health and longevity have always been about that balance. So what we really all need to learn and focus is on what lifestyle foods or herbs that can give our body the best opportunity to live in our toxic world. And right now, we do have a toxic world, okay? We have sugar-laden foods. Our seed oils are highly processed foods, sugar-free things, and even gluten-free things have all more chemicals and preservatives in them. and it's wreaking havoc on our digestive systems. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Now, some of those things might surprise you a little bit when you hear of gluten-free things, but I do have a number of clients and friends, family, whomever, when they hear that they need to go gluten-free, they rush out and buy gluten-free bread, gluten-free chips, gluten-free crackers, gluten-free, 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 and they're probably actually have more chemical ladens in their body than they maybe did before when they can't maybe eating the gluten. But we have to realize that just because things are sugar-free or gluten-free does not mean that they're necessarily a healthier food, because they are definitely more laden with the chemicals and the preservatives within them. Okay. Digestion is really the key to getting nutrients into the body. So when we eat food, we digest the food. That's how we get nutrients into the body. But digestive communication is really the key to health and longevity. And digestive hormones are really needed for that digestive communication. And like I said before, the GLP1 is a digestive hormone that is within the body. And when it's activated, it can help us with our glucose and our insulin balances within the body. So really that digestive communication is definitely key. Hormones were always thought to only reside in the endocrine system for a long time, which would be the hypothalamus, the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, the thymus, the pancreas, adrenals, testes, and ovaries. But now what we are really finding is that these endocrine cells are everywhere in the body because they are our communicators within the body. Just a little side note or a little fun fact, the digestive system has actually and creates over 52 endocrine hormones. Those are communicators in the body. So when you want to look at the digestive system, it actually is the largest endocrine gland in the entire body. So now that they're not always necessarily saying that the endocrine system or the hormones are only created in those endocrine glands, they are really created everywhere. And those hormones are the cellular communicators and transporters between every cell of the body. So we can eat food, but if our body doesn't know which food is coming down, doesn't activate those hormones or those little communicators and transporters, the rest of our body doesn't even know what food is coming down. We need to have those indicators within the body. Okay. Today, what we're going to discuss is some of those digestive hormones. Those, remember, hormones are communicators and transporters of information and nutrition within our digestive system, but actually around our entire body. Now, GLP-1 is our main focus tonight, but there are also other digestive hormones that I just want to briefly cover because those as well might help you to keep more balance in your life and understand what they're doing in the gut as well. But these are the three main digestive hormones. So how does that actually really work? This is going to be step by step. This is Tanya's second grade definition of everything within it, okay? So mainly what we first do is we eat food, or we eat chemicals or preservatives, whatever we are choosing to put in our mouth, okay? We eat that food. After that, we need to chew up those ingredients, whatever we eat, and it drops down and it goes into the stomach. And then it grounds up even more. So we're really getting that food nice and ground up within it. After that, it drops into the duodenum, which is actually the lower part of the stomach or the beginning of the small intestine, okay? And here is where that ground up food, it's actually called chyme, it crosses over these little tiny indicators, and they're called hormone receptors. This movement needs to be done very slowly. When it's done too quickly, that food just goes across those indicators way, way, way too fast, and our body doesn't even know which of the foods are actually coming down. So it doesn't know what to do with those foods, okay? So people who eat and immediately have to run to the bathroom, those little indicators in there never get the information about what food, what nutrients are actually from the foods that you just ate, okay? And so that communication can't necessarily happen, okay? But these little indicators or hormone receptors, they determine what kind of food it is and what kind of hormonal action needs to be taken to best get the food into the cells. So once again, if this is done too rapidly, then those little indicators can't pick up what type of food it is within there. So again, here's what it is. Here's your stomach. You grind up the food at the top, And then it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. And right down there, where the end of the stomach is and the beginning of the small intestine, that's where all of those hormone receptors are. Okay. That's where they're all going to be released from. But once again, it has to be done slowly so that the hormones or the little indicators can actually say, this is the food that's coming down, and this is what I need to do with the food that is coming down. Okay. Now, here are these main hormone receptors that are there. There are 4 main ones, but again, remember there's actually 52 within there, but we're just going to cover these 4 main ones, okay? These are the 4 main ones that respond to the food or the nutrients or the supplements or whatever that we are putting in, eating or drinking, okay? So the GLP-1, we're going to discuss that in more detail on the following slides. Another one that is released is called GIP, gastric inhibitory polypeptide. This is a hormone that's released in our gut, helps to regulate some of the blood glucose level, but most importantly, it helps to regulate nutrient balance, okay? So if you eat food and it gets across the GIP, and let's say some of that food has calcium in it, that GIP will say, I have enough calcium in my body, I can let the rest of this calcium go through, or I don't have enough calcium in my body, and I need to take in the more calcium. Same thing with magnesium or any of the nutrients, your vitamin C's, your vitamin D, any of those kinds of things that are coming in through your food. This one says, I got enough, I'm going to let it pass on through, or nope, I don't have enough, I'm going to take it, tuck it right into the bloodstream. So now that calcium can go to your bones and your muscles. Magnesium can get to your muscles. Vitamin D can get to all the cells of the body, okay? This is why it has a very positive effect on lipid metabolism and your bone strength, your cardiovascular system, your cognitive system, okay? Because it's an indicator within there. Another one is called PYY, peptide YY. It's a hormone that's released in the cells that reduces appetite and also activates the brain to say, had enough food. Remember, there's multiple patterns of things within the body. So it's not just the GLP-1 that tells our brain we have enough food. It is also this peptide YY. The other one that anybody who has gallbladder kinds of issues or issues with digesting fats, this CKK, it's called cholecystokinin. And it's a hormone that's released by the cells of the gut again that promotes like, I've had enough, but it also helps with digestion because that one signals the contraction of the gallbladder to release bile into that small intestine for fat digestion and also for protein digestion. Now, a little FYI is that bile is a natural laxative. So when people miss this step many times, or this hormone is not activated many times, the gallbladder never squeezes enough bile across. And then that's why people can have chronic constipation. Okay, so it's all about activating these hormones. Now, what's amazing when you look at that is that within all of this, it's the hormones that need to be activated. The same types of food either activate that hormone or make that hormone act or has no impact at all on it. And that's what I want to talk about tonight, is what happens and what foods actually do that. But the neat thing about it, with no matter what we do in our body, anytime that we can promote health in one hormone, we are promoting health in all the hormones of the body, because all of these 4 hormones within the digestive tract, they work in combination together. They keep that homeostasis, that keep that balance. So all I'm saying is if you do look at the activated GLP-1 that we have, take a glimpse and an eye on the other kinds of things too, okay? In regards to what if you are also activating the GIP, and that's actually helping you to get your bones are feeling stronger, your muscles are feeling stronger, your brain feels more alert, and even your gallbladder and your fat metabolism and just the constipation or anything like that. If all of that, it means that everything is working together by the healthy choices that you're making in your life. So it's a beautiful thing. So GLP-1 and the highlights from this, and this is coming from that very first study that I showed you, okay, is that GLP-1 primary role in it is regulating blood sugar levels. It has a broader impact on health and aging because it is regulating those blood sugar levels. It has neuroprotective effect, and so it aids in the management of diabetes and obesity, improving cardiovascular health and decreasing cellular aging. It has the ability to protect neurons, so it makes it a very good candidate for tackling the cognitive decline associated with aging and diseases that affect the nervous system. I just want you to think about some of those. Cognitive decline associated with aging, right? And diseases that affect the nervous system, that GLP-1 can have a positive effect on that. Can also effectively utilize in turning back the biological clock, okay? And that really is just saying that our cells are not aging as fast. We're just trying to protect our cells so that they can just all age more gracefully. But the reality of it is in life, like I said before, health and longevity is all about the balance. And when we're talking about GLP-1, it's the balance of blood sugar levels and insulin levels. And that's where we want to go a little bit more detail in regards to this, okay? When we're looking at glucose and cellular energy, this means that your cells have the ability to run and jump and play and think and go hiking and go swimming and do everything that you want to be doing. We need to have that cellular energy, okay? We get cellular energy from two different ways. First of all, in our foods, and our diets give us that cellular energy and that glucose. The second way that we're getting that cellular energy is through the liver. The liver is always converting and putting more glucose into the bloodstream. This is why when people fast, when you go between meals, when you can't, you still have some gas in the tank, okay? And that's kind of what our liver does, okay? The liver is always going to put glucose into the blood, to keep you having the energy to doing everything that you need to be doing, unless it's told not to do that. And that is really what GLP-1 is doing. GLP-1 is the hormone that goes in, that hormone indicator in that duodenum, in that lower part of the stomach, the first part of the small intestine, that sends a signal to the liver to say, yo, we got a lot of energy from the food that we just ate. We don't need to put as much glucose in the blood. Now, it's not exactly like this, but I'm going to compare it to calories, okay? Because many people can think about calories and how all that works, okay? So what if, and this is just an example, okay? I don't have any science to base it on. What if you do not eat at all, your liver puts 1,200 calories into your bloodstream every day? And now you eat some food. Let's say you eat 800 calories one meal, 400 calories the next meal, and however many it is. Let's say you have a total of 1,200 calories in your diet, but nothing ever told your liver to stop putting the 1,200 calories in there. Now, because nothing told the liver that we have enough energy coming from our food, now you have 2,400 calories in the body for that day. Okay, does that kind of make sense? So if nothing is telling the liver we have enough from what we ate, the liver continues to put it into the bloodstream. And that's why people can still have very high fasting glucose numbers, because they'll do their blood sugars. They didn't eat, they were fasting, but yet the glucose is still very high. It's because the liver is continuing to put the glucose into the bloodstream at a high rate. So the liver is going to do that unless it's told not to do that, because its job is wanting to keep us be able to run and jump and work and play, okay? That's what the liver is doing. So if it's not getting that signal from GLP-1, it just keeps putting that into the bloodstream, okay? The other thing that we have going on is insulin. So insulin is another thing that helps to keep our blood sugar levels even. Insulin is released from the pancreas, but once again, the GLP-1 says all of this food is coming down. It contacts the pancreas and activates the B cells in the pancreas to say, yep, we need some insulin to balance out the blood sugar levels of the foods that we just ate, okay? But insulin can also be called on from the bloodstream if there's too much glucose in the blood. And again, why is there too much glucose in the blood? Because nothing told the liver to stop putting extra glucose into the bloodstream. Okay, too much insulin and the person's cells, when it's chronically going in there, can become insulin resistant. And then that's really where the real issue kind of gets to be. Okay, so once again, it's all about the liver getting the message from that GLP-1 hormone that really will keep everything in balance here. Okay, so we need to activate that GLP-1. And once again, this is another review, but how do we do that? By eating and drinking, right? Break down the food, grind up that food into chyme. The chyme crosses over those hormone receptors and triggers the release of that GLP hormone and other hormones. So really, it's about the messenger. The messenger has to go from the small intestine over to the liver. And the messenger is the GLP-1 hormone. It is there. When it's released, it tells the liver to decrease the amount of glucose that's going in the bloodstream in the proportion of how much food that we eat. And why? Because we have enough energy, glucose from our food. It slows down the gut. This is so awesome. Because why do we need to have that gut kind of slowed down a little bit? So that we don't overeat. Our body is very wise. It doesn't want us to overeat, okay? But if that GLP-1 hormone doesn't get activated, it's much easier to crave. It's much easier to eat and overeat. But our body doesn't want that, okay? And as we have enough energy from our food, and then also the slower the food moves across those hormone receptors, the better it can say, this is a protein, this is a carbohydrate, this is a fat, and it can better tell the pancreas, the gallbladder, the liver, can just better tell everything what it needs to be doing, okay? And then again, it can send that message to the pancreas so that B cells of the pancreas can release the right amount of insulin and also send an extra message over to the liver to say, we have a high amount of glucose coming in from our natural foods, our fruits and our veggies. We need even less glucose to be released from the liver, okay? And so why does it do this? So that our blood doesn't get overloaded with insulin. So really this GLP-1 is like, to understand it is just like so phenomenal in how it can keep all of those things in balance. It's awesome. Now we're going to switch over to the bloodstream and go into the tissues, organs, and glands of the body, okay? So insulin and glucose work hand in hand in the tissues and cells in the blood and the glands, okay? Glucose and other nutrients need insulin to move into the cell. Now, what's fascinating is that insulin is needed in every single cell of the body. Every cell of the body. And otherwise, glucose and nutrients do not get into the cell at all. Every single cell of the body. The more glucose that's in the bloodstream, the more insulin that is released into the bloodstream. Now, remember, there's two ways to do that. If we're getting some glucose into our food, and also we can get too much in the bloodstream and then too much insulin in there. If our liver isn't told, don't put any more glucose in the blood, we're good, or less glucose in the blood, again, proportion to how much that we're eating. When a cell has enough glucose, then the cells say, I have enough glucose here. It puts some insulin resistance. It shuts off that insulin receptor site, okay? When that happens, insulin and glucose are not getting into the cell. Now, when that chronically happens and chronically happens and chronically happens, you can get insulin resistance. Now, that's the same example as when people get antibiotic resistant. When a cell continually gets stimulated and overstimulated to an antibiotic, it will become antibiotic resistant. The same thing happens when people are going through chemotherapy and cancer treatments. The cells become overstimulated, overstimulated by the chemotherapy. And all of a sudden they'll say that chemotherapy doesn't work anymore. The cells have become resistant to that chemotherapy and you have to switch to something else. The same thing happens within the body here. If a cell is chronically irritated and chronically stimulated by insulin, it becomes insulin resistant. And when we have that issue going on, then the cell cannot get glucose or nutrients into the cell when it becomes insulin resistant, okay? That is the greatest danger in health, is too much insulin leading to that insulin resistance. Because what it actually happens is if a cell starts to reject insulin, it also rejects glucose and the other nutrients that are supposed to get into that cell. If no nutrients or glucose can get into that cell, the cell slowly loses its function. Now, the body's going to ebb and flow, okay? It's not going to be insulin resistant in the shoulder all the time. It's not going to be insulin resistant in the hip all the time. It's not going to be insulin resistant in all those areas of the body. But if you have pain that's moving, that is a clear sign that you more than likely have insulin resistance, because the cell is decreasing the function here. But if the body doesn't let any nutrients or glucose into that cell, it's going to die. And the body's very wise. So it ebbs and flows. So you don't have 100% of your cells being insulin resistant. It's going to hold some off from here for a while, and then from here for a while, and then from here for a while. And that's why people can have inflammatory symptoms that travel and move. It's a real sign that that is what's kind of like going on in the body. Now, the interesting thing as well is that the last cells that become insulin resistant are the fat cells, because the body knows that the least amount of danger comes when it stores extra glucose, extra calories, extra all that kind of stuff in the fat cells. Then the fat cells become inflamed and swell, and we're left with tighter clothes. Okay, right? That we're left with tighter clothes. Okay. For me, I think it's even worse, though, that we are actually left with cells throughout the body that are slowly losing their function. And then that is when people are aging faster than they need to. That's when diseases and disease conditions are happening at a younger and a younger and a younger age. It's all about this insulin, but it's also all about the glucose, right? So we want to trace it backwards. On the right-hand side, this is the diagram from Dr. Ben Bickman. And he says, this are the symptoms. Look around in there. These are the symptoms of insulin resistance within the body. Look at all that. That's a lot of stuff going on. But if we want to trace it backwards, we have to realize that insulin resistance, too much insulin in the blood, causes that insulin resistance, causes the body to put almost like a coating around the outside of the cell and say, no more, no more, no more. It's an irritant to it, becomes insulin resistant. And then glucose can't get in and nutrients can't get in. And then these cells slowly start losing function. Okay. But too much insulin is really caused from too much glucose in the blood. Too much glucose in the blood is coming from two main reasons: eating too many carbohydrates and sugars and even other preservatives and chemicals within our food. And you need to adjust that. But the other reason is because of the lack of communication between the small intestine and the liver. The liver is not being told to decrease the amount of glucose in the blood because we have all this other energy and glucose coming in through our diet. And that is where this GLP-1 hormone can definitely help with that. So how can we open up that pathway within there? So that's kind of tracing it backwards. Insulin resistance, if you want to look at the diagnosis of it, is actually type 2 diabetes. That's what insulin resistance is, type 2 diabetes, okay? Insulin levels are usually out of order long before there's abnormalities in the blood sugar. Insulin resistance can be there, even though glucose and A1C seem to be within the correct parameters, okay? And this is why a blood sugar test might not come back completely normal, even if you're beginning to experience insulin resistance. And remember that even skinny people can have insulin resistance. It's not just that it's overweight people that have that, okay? And so normal does not always mean optimal. On the right-hand side there, you can see this is a snapshot of diabetes in the United States, and even people that are pre-diabetic, okay? And many people don't realize that they're pre-diabetic. But to know that too is that that's really that you're verging on high levels of insulin resistance. And that's where we can really try to help with this GLP-1 activation, okay? Once again, insulin resistance. This is a quick snapshot of how it's helping with that, or how the progress of it, kind of. You can look at that. Most doctors do not do fasting insulin levels. Most of them don't do that at all. But a quick check for you yourself on insulin resistance, and this is coming from that Dr. Ben Beckman, is that you can take your triglycerides and divide it by your HDL. Now that number should be 1.5 or less, and that's for functional health, okay? It's a very small parameter. So even if it's 1.53, I would still look at it, take it pretty seriously, because it can lead to higher and higher numbers, okay? If it's lower than 1.5, it's okay. The only thing that might be is if the triglycerides start to run a little bit too low, then that may be a sign that the person is not getting enough fats in their body. And because vitamin A and D and E and K, those are all fat-soluble vitamins, then that could be kind of an indicator of it. But at least you have a basis of something to kind of be looking at. And again, remember, this is just a guide. You should combine that with your other, health blood work as well. But this is just kind of a guide for how to see, and even just to kind of take a peek at how it is. Now, what Dr. Ben had said was that 80% of the population are verging on 1.5 or higher. And so I did my own little study with family and friends, and I even reached out to some of you. And so I think there was like 22 people that actually got back to me, and only 3 of them had a number of 1.5 or less. Only 3 of them. So I believe that he's right in saying that 80%, okay? But it's all about, a lot of it is about that GLP-1, okay? But beyond insulin resistance and weight loss and weight management, things like that, what else can GLP-1 do for in the brain? Because when I was studying, where are the main areas? Now, there's GLP-1 indicators and receptor sites and things like that everywhere within the body, but they mainly reside in the duodenum of that small intestine, also in the pancreas, and then also in the brainstem and up in the brain. And what I think is our body is always so wise. Why is the body so concerned about keeping those blood sugar levels and those insulin levels balanced, that it would put a lot of the GLP-1 receptor sites in the brain? And I believe that it is definitely to protect the brain, okay? And so what they found is that we can, and when we have more GLP-1, there's GLP neurons in the brainstem that receive and relay signals of stress. They have a strong link as well to the sympathetic nervous system. So that's why when somebody can activate either through food or whatever it may be, these GLP-1 secretions and the hormone within there, they feel more calm. They feel more focused because the body has some protection that it is saying with the whole blood sugar and the insulin levels to be balanced. So GLP-1 also has neural protection. It activates the signal pathways that protect the brain and reduces inflammation and early death in your brain cells. So because of both of those things is why learning and memory can definitely improve when we can help with that promoting of the GLP-1 hormone within the body. So it's not just about weight loss. And I myself almost feel like get everything else in order and then the weight management will just come. You know what I mean? So the question is here, even for us right now, what are the foods that naturally activate GLP-1 within the body? Okay. Now, this is where some things might be surprising to people. So I just ask you to be very open and listen. This is all of Dr. Ben Bikman's research, okay, within here. And he is like the insulin guru. That's why I would highly recommend go to his Facebook page. He does these little 30-minute little educational snippets. And it's just fascinating what you all learned from him. Okay. He said all meat-based proteins actually activate it the most. Okay. Other vegetable-based proteins do, but we have to look at the glycemic index versus the glycemic load. And I'm going to show you a slide on that and what that actually means, okay? Fats activate it as well. And the ones that activate it the most are the saturated fats, the butter, the animal fats, coconut oil, lard that our grandmas used to always cook with, right? And then the monounsaturated fats, which would be like olive oil and avocado oil. Those are the ones that actually activate the GLP-1 hormone the most in the body. Fruits and veggies do. Some do and some don't. Some activate a little bit more and some don't. And we need to look again at the glycemic index versus the glycemic load within the body, okay? So these are the foods that activate the GLP-1 protein within there. Keeping our blood sugars balanced, telling our liver, got enough food, don't be putting any more glucose in the blood. We don't need it right now because we got enough energy from our food. So we don't overload the body with glucose. This is the difference between the glycemic index and the glycemic load. When people are looking at the glycemic index, we look at how quickly the food raises the blood sugar levels in comparison to glucose or white bread, okay? Foods can be separated into these different categories. The glycemic load is a little bit different because what it actually looks at is what does it actually do in the bloodstream. The glycemic index is looking more at what's it doing in the pancreas The glycemic load is looking more what it does in the bloodstream, okay? So some of the fruits and the foods and the veggies, if you eat them and they do not activate your GLP-1 protein, they're going to have, well, all of them will have the glycemic index first. That is just saying, what's it doing with blood sugars and insulin, okay? The glycemic load is saying, okay, but what else is going on within the body and in the gut? Is it telling the liver to not put as much glucose in the bloodstream? So the glycemic index is what it's doing in the pancreas. The glycemic load is what it's doing in the bloodstream, okay? So as you can see, some of the foods, and you can find these charts everywhere. There's tons and tons of charts out there that you can look at. But peanuts, for example, the glycemic index of peanuts is 14, but the glycemic load of it, remember, peanuts have fat and protein in it, which will activate the GLP-1 protein, telling the liver, decrease the glucose that you're putting in the bloodstream. So the glycemic load of peanuts is 2, okay? Bean sprouts, as you see, they're a carbohydrate. They're a vegetable carbohydrate, okay? The glycemic index of that is 25, but it also must activate the GLP-1 protein in there to tell the liver, decrease the amount of glucose in the bloodstream because we're getting enough energy from the bean sprouts. The glycemic load is 1. So if you want to really be looking at how you can really see what is raising the glucose levels in the blood, because that's what we're trying to keep down so our insulin doesn't go too high, you really want to look at glycemic load foods within there, okay? Now, as you see, like spaghetti, 42, the glycemic load is still 16. So spaghetti is still not a low glycemic load food, okay? Carrots, as you can see, will do it. Bananas. Anyway, you can look at these charts in many different places, but the most important thing that you want to do is see what is the glycemic load of the food to try to really keep your glycemic load low. That means the amount of glucose that's in your blood is low. And the way that it is because some of the fibers and some of the other fats and things like that actually activate the GLP-1 protein in the body. So it keeps it more in balance, okay? Now, these are the things that do not activate the GLP-1 protein in the body, like at all, okay? Okay, so these are some polyunsaturated fats. These are actually from your nut and your seeds and your vegetable oils. When you eat those foods, you will feel hungrier with these oils because they do not activate that GLP-1 protein within the body. Sugar-free things or even sugar substitutes. And the reason for that, when sugar will go to the pancreas, okay? And so what happens in the pancreas is if the insulin doesn't get activated enough, that also the B cells the beta cells in the pancreas also do not activate the GLP-1 protein to tell the liver, decrease the amount of glucose in the food. So when you eat sugar-free things, it is not decreasing the amount of glucose in the body. Some fruits and veggies, like we talked about, is that we want to be looking at the glycemic load of the foods. Preservatives and chemicals in any shelf-stable foods also do nothing at all for that cellular communication. It doesn't trigger any of that at all, okay? So when you look at this list here, the reality is that none of these will make you feel full. None of these are going to slow down the gut motility that you have in the body. And also none of these will slow the gut motility so your gut hormones can know what pancreatic enzymes or liver enzymes to actually digest. And none of these will send calming messages to your brain and tell you that I've had enough energy and you can stop eating. So none of these will tell the liver to decrease the amount of glucose in the bloodstream, so the blood will continually call for more and more and more insulin within there. Okay, now, are we still doing? No, okay. All righty. So we need GLP-1, okay? And we need more and more of it to be activated within the blood. And again, the GLP-1 is the natural hormone that deters these insulin resistance. So I want you to look at things on the left-hand side there. And the question is this you? Some people were talking about aches and pains migrating throughout the body. Do you mean cravings for sugar, fatigue after meals, constant hunger and fatigue, inability to lose weight, PCOS, acne, facial hair, infertility, all of these hormonal imbalancers, because hormones all work together. So when you can help to support one hormone, you're going to help to support all the hormones. And again, we have the highlights of those things on the right-hand side there as well. So GLP-1 has that primary role in regulating the blood sugar levels, but has that broader impact on health and aging, neuroprotective things, its ability to protect neurons. Then that's why it can really help with cognitive things, and then really to help you age more gracefully within there as well. So within here, this is when Steve Fife was actually had his interview with Newsweek. What he said in here, and this is so true, what he said in here is that our modern lifestyles have diverged significantly from our body's original programming. And that's the truth, okay? What I love about it is that LifeVantage reacts to our body's natural processes rather than merely supplementing or putting a Band-Aid on the issue. Now, knowledge is power, and everything that you achieved tonight with listening to this, and I hope that you understood it, but knowledge is power, but the problem still exists. The reason of the decreased GLP-1 is because of our foods and our food choices, right? The drinks that we have and our very, very fast-paced life. That's really the reason for the decreased GLP-1. We can try to legislate, of course, for more organic foods, more pure air, food and water, but actually we need help today. So I can say still promote that, still go eat organic and things like that, but we need help today. And the reality really is that it's unlikely that we're going to grow and only eat our own foods, and that we're never going to go out to eat, and we're never going to go to other people's homes or never attend family functions, right? It isn't reasonable because we are also social beings, okay? And stress and loneliness and all those kinds of things can also shut down the gut because our gut is also an emotional organ. So we need each other for friendship, and we need each other for emotional support and all of that. But the truth is that our body really needs more support and help because food and supplementation isn't working, because we have an overabundance of toxins in our environment, in our food and our air and our water. We have that. So in order to thrive in our environment, we really need activation now. That's really where it's at, okay? And vitamins, minerals, supplements are not working. We really need activation, okay? So what I am really, really, really looking for this is that's being launched in October to this GLP-1 activation. It's going to have such a profound impact on people's cellular health, not just on their weight, but on their health. Dr. Benjamin Bickman said that 80% of the people are above the mark of insulin resistance, okay? But even if weight management is not an issue or a concern for you, unbalanced cells is a cause for concern, okay? Decreased GLP-1, insulin resistant, can cause symptoms of slowly no longer functioning nerves and in your digestive system with your nutrition, in your brain, in your internal organs, and of course, in your weight. So in my study, I really did find also that when the cells are healthier, they will be more responsive to this GLP-1 activation that is launching in October, okay? So I feel I'm really anxious to get started on it and get going on it. Going to just be fabulous and awesome, okay? But LifeVantage is always about thinking about cellular health. And these are the two things that they're promoting for transformation. So it's like, get your cells. If you are not on any of these products, I would strongly encourage you to get on these products before October to prep your cells, getting your cells as healthy as they can be. So when the launch of that GLP-1 activator starts, that your cells are more prepared and ready than ever before, okay? So these are two different things that they are doing for transformation and the specials. And as you see, you can get 15% off of these. So once again, if you're not taking any of these, I would highly recommend that you start on those now in preparation to get your body and your cells as healthy as they can be before October. So one of them is called the Healthy Glow Stack. And why the Healthy Glow Stack? I believe that this can really help you is that protandim NRF2 can show to decrease oxidative stress on the cells by 40% in 30 days. That's proven in science in 100% of the humans tested, not rats or rabbits or mice, but humans tested, okay? I know that when the gut isn't properly working, the cells of the gut and the entire body will show increased levels of oxidative stress. So if you can help with that by taking the protandim NRF2, that's a great thing. And also, we will never be able to keep up. Our normal supplementation, foods, all those kinds of things have a hard time to keep up with the toxins that we have in our air and our food and our water, which also is an underlying cause of high oxidative stress levels. Then our True Science collagen is proven to increase collagen density by 42% in 8 weeks. The outer lining of each and every cell becomes hardened and resistant to many things, not just resistant to insulin, but resistant to many things. And when we know that our collagen can go and help out internally on all the cells of the body, in our tissues and our organs throughout it, the healthier that our skin is around our cells, the more likely it can benefit from all the food and nutrients. And fast forwarding to October, can also benefit the most from our GLP-1 activation. Why the Kickstart bundle? And of course, this is a combination of protandim NRF2 and fat burn and Axio. Once again, which I said on the other slide, protandim NRF2 shown to decrease oxidative stress by 40% in that 30 days. Again, if our gut isn't working, we usually have high levels of oxidative stress. If our gut isn't communicating, we can have high levels of oxidative stress. And again, we have toxins in our air and our food and our water. What I find is very unique is that this combination of the fat burn and the Axio, because what I do know is when people are drinking too many sugar or sugar-free drinks, that can cause some of the insulin resistance. So if you are that kind of person that's reaching for pop, that's reaching for the different flavored waters and things like that, I would just encourage you to reach instead for this Axio, because Axio definitely has some nutrients in it. It's sweetened with stevia, and so it's a good and healthy alternative to reaching for some of those other sugary things. When people are having too many sugary things, and this is again from Dr. Ben Bickman, that he had said that it's really the underlying sugary foods and drinks that we have that is the underlying cause of visceral fat that is stored around the internal organs and glands of the body. And in his narrative, in one of his videos, he said particularly like fatty liver. That is really a cause of too much sugar, too much glucose being in that liver area. And so then fat burn is definitely for you, because you're just going to have better effects with all of the GLP-1 activation. And even if you never choose to do the GLP-1 activation, all of these other products will help your cells just to be healthier for the long term. So I believe, so excited, this GLP-1 activation, it's going to be life-changing. I really do. And if you can think about this, you can have the same body, but you can have a different life, right? You can be in the same seat, but you got a different driver now. You have the education, you have the understanding of how this GLP-1 hormone actually works in the gut. It is the main messenger between the small intestine and the liver. It's the messenger. And if we're missing the messenger, we're missing pretty much everything, okay? So all I can say is, I think buckle up, because this is going to be awesome and great, okay? With that, I'm going to stop sharing. If anybody has any questions, Tanya, you can take it over from here.
That was amazing, Gloria. I'm going to send you the chat because there was so much love and so much gratitude for what you just did for us. One person said it's the best presentation she's seen since her time in LifeVantage. So what a compliment.